So, the chassis swap. Yeah, it's finally happening. I did a film like this for the bulkhead swap basically just over a year ago. And I think it proved really helpful for me to collate it all into one place so I can really think about it a lot. And also, hopefully, it can help people into the future. Because there's one thing I think about these sort of jobs, these big ones. And it all does come down to like the level of like sort of restoration you're going for. But generally, there's no guide of parts, bits and pieces. So today, I'm going to go from start to finish, my current chassis to it being finished. Why, who, what, when, everything. Obviously, this is all my stuff. So it's just a guide, and I just thought I'd share my experience of doing it today. And I hope that you enjoy this video, and let's get cracking. Right then, you can't imagine how long it took me to set up the workspace in here. I've got everything laid out around me, all the parts I've got so far. I'm sure there will be more to come, but we'll get onto that in a moment. I've just sat down and wrote like 3 pages in my notepad about the whole thing, and today I'll be explaining it, and I'll hopefully insert some clips and videos about every single thing, so it's not just me. I feel like a news anchor here, but I've got my wobbly camping table, that's all I've got. Got my cup of tea, and yeah, should be good. So bear with me on this one, it's quite a big job, it's going to be a long video, so down below in the description I'll put some timestamps for the sort of chapters of this film. If you're getting bored, skip ahead if you want to, and find out more info about the other bits of the job. So Boris is a 1997, which makes it 28 years old, and it's done pretty well, ish. It's a shame they didn't galvanise them from the factory, but over the years it has taken a lot of abuse. Obviously I've owned it for the last coming up to 6 years, and since then I've been looking after it as much as I can, but there's only so far you can go. Currently it is in a very poor state. The years that I've had it, it's had repair after repair after repair. Most of them have been surprises. You can look back to Wales, where we took the gearbox out to replace the clutch because it was slipping, found massive holes in the side of the chassis. It had a rust proofing a few years ago, and while it was there they found quite a few holes along the way. Patched up one towards the front side of the chassis there, and as you work your way back they welded on a new rear cross member and put new spring hangers on, and that was a massive job. When they were there they found loads and loads of mud and sand and crust and everything in the chassis. So in more recent years, it definitely feels like it's a sort of get it up in the air before the MOT and have a look what it is rusty and where there are holes rather than if. So me and Ben have been patching it up over and over and over again, cutting bits out, putting new metal in place and welding it over, more as a sort of patch job to add a bit of support, but more just to keep it on the road, and with a vision of getting a new chassis in the future. That was getting closer and closer, and now it's actually happening. That was all working pretty well, I would say, this sort of patching it up and then just sort of going over it with some under chassis protection. Looked basically brand new, but it isn't. This year, you may have seen on my previous videos, I went to Wales. Off-roading is obviously very harsh on the entire Defender, but the chassis took a massive beating when I was going up the rock step in Wales just after we patched it up, and it revealed loads of issues. It was my fault. I drove it badly, but I bashed down onto the chassis, and I'm surprised nothing actually snapped or broke off. It sounded like it did. Pushed the chassis up, in and out, and then knocked bits out, and now there's holes all the way along the bottom. You can actually put your hand in or your fingers in, grab 50p size bits of metal out, and it just isn't good at all. It's looking like in a really bad shape, and there's just no chance of, well, there's no point in spending the money of repairing it. There's nothing really to go on to, and yeah, there's no chance of getting an MOT on it now without doing loads and loads of work, and it's that time. You need to realise where no more repairs need to happen. You just need to bite the bullet and go for it. So that's all doom and gloom. The old chassis is going. We've got a new one sitting ready for me from Richard Chassis, and I just wanted to talk about why I chose them. If you look back at my videos, if you've seen them or you want to go and take a look, I did a bulkhead swap last year, as I mentioned. That was with DDS, and DDS Metal have a very good partnership with Richards. There's a lot of links there, and they are made in conjunction with each other, specifically the bulkhead and the chassis. They actually share names with them, and they are linked very closely. So it's in that sense, for me, it's a no-brainer to go for Richards, because they are made together. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I know that DDS makes some of the components that go onto the chassis in the end. So in that sense, number one, that's a no-brainer for me. Next thing I've heard is sort of just through word of mouth of the last 6 years of being in the community and being around shops, people that have done it. There are a few brands that are like at the top, there are a few brands in the middle, there are a few brands at the bottom. And again, like the bulkhead, this is just my opinion and what I've heard and what I've deduced over the years and what I'm going for. So this is not 100%. But Richards were of the two that are at the top, and there's mixed opinions of which one is actually at the top. Richards to me just sounds like the sort of OEM choice, really. There are a few differences with other brands out there, but for me, I just heard its quality. Obviously made British, I think most of them are, some of them aren't. And generally just had so many good things about them, seen a lot about them, seen them at the shows. And everyone I've heard that has put one in has been very happy. And whenever I say I'm going for a Richards chassis, people go, nice, yeah, cool. It's not like another brand and go, oh, I did one of those, it was a bit difficult. But everything I've heard from them has been really good. And I just hope that everything lines up. I believe the production process is slightly different from the original one. Not 100% sure. I think the box section is slightly different. I know that this side metal they use on the box of the chassis is actually thicker, which is good. And also there are a few bits and pieces they've improved over the years, but it is all handmade in their factory. And then they ship it all from there. So it was shipped down to me not too long ago, and it looked like a great bit of kit, and it was great to finally see it in the flesh just the other day. I did manage to get some shots the other day. Unfortunately, it wasn't as pretty as being out in the trees with the bulkhead. I did have it sitting there in the yard and managed to get some shots of it. And it does look really smooth. Every weld is very clean and the galv looks very good. So for this section, I think the first thing to talk about is why paint it. You know, a lot of people say galv doesn't rust. What's the point in doing it? And I've seen a lot of videos, a lot of opinions of people saying, yeah, technically yes, and it will last. I've seen series 3s out there with like galv cappings. It might not be original, but like that's bare and looks fine. So you can go that route, and obviously it's cost saving, and it does work. And if you like the look of it, then cool. My opinion is that I'm going to, and there's 3 main points that I've written down, not in order of importance, but it's theft. It's theft, corrosion, and the way it looks, visuals. When I say theft, I mean a shiny galvanized chassis on the bottom of a Defender, it being like a very expensive job to do and makes the Defender much more desirable. But just from a sort of deterrent point of view, I've got a tracker, I've got a clutch lock, a few other bits and pieces on the truck, and then covering the chassis in black so that it doesn't look as shiny like a magpie. It just deters people again slightly from seeing it and knowing it's worth more. That's one part of it. Next one is, as I said before, the galv is a sacrificial metal and does get eaten away over time. You can see on older trucks that haven't been treated or looked after, it does start to corrode, and it'll just decrease the sort of lifetime of the chassis. A lot of people say that won't be in their lifetime, but for me, if you're doing it to this level, to this expense, putting all the new bits on, you might as well go that extra bit while it's sitting there on the floor. And finally, and it is superficial and doesn't really matter, generally, I've actually grown to like it a little bit more, but I don't love the look of galv when people, have galv cappings, galv bumpers, galv everything. Previously I didn't like it at all. Now I do actually quite like it. I would consider a galv rear step or side steps or bumper, whatever, but generally I just think that black, especially when it comes to the chassis, looks original, and I like Boris looking up-rated original, which is my sort of thing I like to go for. So generally I just think it looks better, more original, and covers it up. Generally 3 points there to say why you would want to do it. Moving on to the actual doing it, which is actually quite daunting now. I have to do it myself, and I've been doing a lot of research, a few different companies out there. I'm not going to be using a spray gun, which is recommended. I'm going to be using a mixture of like spray guns you get, just like not aerosols, just the spray guns, to put like brake cleaners on there, and T-wash, and then aerosols for initial primer, I think, and then brush for the second coat of primer, and the final coat is my plan. Generally, though, what I'm going to do is degrease it with a sort of panel wipe slash brake cleaner, just general degreaser, maybe with a Scotch-Brite pad and bits and pieces, and then sort of rinse it with the degreaser, try and get all of the bits and pieces off, give that area a nice and give the area a nice key, but don't need to go too heavy with that, because after that what I'm going to use is T-wash, and there is a real name for that. I'm going to look that up now. I knew it, I was right, but I just didn't want to get it completely wrong. Mordant Solution it's called. I'll put the name here. When I actually went to a few painters before the bulkhead painting, loads of them didn't know what T-washing is. Jack Fielder painted my bulkhead for me, and he did that. And this time I'm going to be doing that too, and just buying it in a solution in a bottle, and then spraying it on, as I said before, just like a window cleaner bottle, basically letting that sit on there, and that just reacts with the galv, and beyond the keying and degreasing you've done, it etches away at the paint slightly and gives it a really nice finish to adhere that etch primer onto, and it means it won't flake off, because galv is traditionally known to be difficult to paint on, so that will be very helpful. Next thing is using a very strong primer with a brush, and if you're brushing it, I guess you might just need to do one coat. I think that's probably what I'll do, because time and effort is limited on this one, so I'll do one coat of a really strong, maybe epoxy chassis primer, and then let that dry again for a long time. Maybe come back the next day, do some other bits and pieces if you can, and then go back again with a final chassis top coat. And the final bit that is very important, and again the galv does go into the box chassis itself and sit, but it is sacrificial, so while you're there and while it's sitting on the ground, I'm going to get some cavity wax that I used for the bulkhead as well. That was really good. Built Hamber that was, and they come in massive cans. It's very runny, and it comes with a long tube that you go down in all the holes, sprays out in all directions, and you just spray along everywhere you can get to. And after that, on that part of it, you're all done, which is nice. And that's what I'm going to do, just me. But that's the plan, and yes, hopefully then it'll look nice, give it more protection, and be ready for the build. I've strategically placed things all around me. I just thought I'd do that so you can see them as I'm talking. Maybe you haven't spotted them all, but we'll go through them all now on my rickety table and try not to spill any tea. To make this already difficult job go more smoothly, basically, new bolts, nuts, new clutch, loads of different bits as you're going in, all the new braided lines, as imagine taking these old ones off and trying to put them back in again. Yes, that would work, but now we can leave those on the old chassis when it gets thrown away, and we've got brand new bits that you know are going to last for ages, and it's the easiest time to reach them all, rather than going underneath, under the body, and clipping them all back in and fitting it after the chassis. As everything's coming apart, you might as well get there while you can. So I'm going to show you as much as I can and that I remember and that will fit on the table. But generally I will do a very substantial list down below of everything, and then maybe make a guide on a website one day. Who knows? Hopefully that will help you. Do let me know down below if that would help you. So here we have a few bits from DDS. Here there are 3 of these. This is the tub brace that goes from the chassis to hold the tub at the back. I've seen before, mine are looking a bit crusty, so it's important to get those, and they thankfully rivet from the bottom. Means I won't have to take the camper out the back, which is great. Various body mounts. I think there's 2 different types of these for both sides on the chassis, and then a cab mount as well. Just remember, I've ordered these without any advice, so that means they might be wrong, but generally those are important. Mine obviously is a utility, so there are different bits. You've got sills, you've got another cross member for the sort of station wagon with the rear doors, so take that into sort of consideration as well. But also I've got galv spring seats to go on as well. I've actually had these for a long time. I've been meaning to do it for a little while. Hopefully we get to those as well. Forgot about this one. This is another galvanised part that goes from the bulkhead to the chassis. 2 of those, very important part as well. Told you I was going small. Here we have a couple of, well, this is the 2 different types. This is just an assorted, I think, yeah, not even just one like gauge, assorted stainless bolt set. Really handy. You can get sort of mixed ones, Defender restoration kits, loads of different ones. I've got one for the bulkhead. I've got boxes over here filled with things, you know. What I'm going to do is just take as many things as I can. As when you're putting things back on, it's so nice to go stainless. And here you've got a specific bolt, and there will be more things like this. I need to get some more bigger gauge bolts like that, but those are specifically for the rear shock hangers. Next up, one of my must-haves was going for braided lines. My plan was to do braided brake lines, but as I learnt more about Pioneer 4x4's products, the more I wanted to put on and replace to make the job easier again. Here we have a clutch line, a braided clutch line, and this goes all the way from the master down to the slave. I've got a new slave just here, and that will be mounted onto the gearbox. Good to do it while you're there, and that will just be absolutely fantastic to know that you don't have to get any split lines again. Stainless fittings all made just up the road for me, and I did actually go and visit them not that long ago, about half an hour up the road on the way to my Exmoor camp the other day. I went in there, took a look around. They've got a brand new unit that is not ready to be fully shown, but it was great to see all the products being handmade just up the road from me, and they are absolutely fantastic bits of kit. Here and here are a very small amount of the parts that it takes to redo the brake lines. I've got full braided lines everywhere for the brakes. Recently just had the brakes redone, was planning on doing that then, but didn't do it then, and now obviously everything will be exposed. It'll be much easier to do it. So with the brakes renewed and now the brake lines, it's going to be absolutely mint, and these being nice and fresh with all the clips and cable ties that come with it. You've got the braided lines for everywhere, the flexies for the calipers, all the little bits and pieces. Here it says Land Rover Defender 110/130, no valve, bag 3. I don't know what that means yet, but I'm really excited to get all this on. Obviously, it'll be coming in the video, but that will make the actual swap go loads quicker, and also it will last forever, and you won't have things like pipes breaking in a campsite. You may be recognising this lovely bit of anodised CNC kit, and it's something I didn't even realise they did until I had a look at their catalogue, but this is a fuel filter housing that goes on the sort of left of the bonnet, engine bay, and that can bolt on and hold your fuel filter, funnily enough. New braided fuel lines as well. These come from the new tank, and we'll just upgrade the whole system. It means the whole fuel area will be really nice, won't corrode, and these are super heavy duty. It changes you change the ends on the actual connectors here, and you clamp them right down, and you'll have no leaks, and they will last just, or if outlast, the chassis as well. Next up, we have this fantastic new power spec TDI clutch from Loff. It's the name in the industry that everyone goes for, and you can see why. Great bits of kit, really heavy duty. Mine is definitely sort of growling a lot when you put your clutch pedal down. I did change it, as I said, probably in 2019 when I first got Boris. So I guess that is coming up to 6 years ago now, and over 50,000 miles with lots of abuse. So you can understand why it's doing it. And while you're there, you've got the engine out, you might as well take the gearbox off and change the clutch while you're there. Obviously, it's up to you what one you go for. There's all these different specs for different vehicles. But yeah, this is the power spec for the TDI. And there you have the pressure plate and the actual clutch. I hope it's that way around. While I was there, I thought I'd go for the heavy-duty fork that they do, release fork, as I actually have had one of the slave push through wherever it was here before. I can't remember where it exactly is, but they've got a heavy-duty one by 4x4 XS, and it looks like a great bit of kit, and you might as well upgrade things while you're there, because not everything is perfect. They have a few products on their website, but a rear seal for the crank. Mine does leak quite a bit of oil from that area, so that's a bit of an issue. It might be the actual crank as well, I hope not, but this is a no-brainer to do it while you're there, and they are available on their website when you're there as well. I'm looking forward to putting that on, and it just adds to the sort of peace of mind of doing everything while you're there. So something I was definitely recommended by a lot of people, and you can see why when you come into Boris's electronics. This is a rear chassis loom. It goes from the bulkhead back, and you have to sort of feed it down through the chassis, and I've heard it's a little bit of a nightmare, which is great, but at least you've got peace of mind. When I bought it, there was no fog light, and recently in the last few years Ben has had to bypass a few wires to get some of the indicators working, and that's all a nightmare. So what you need to do here is just run it back in through the chassis, plug it up to the bulkhead at the front, just above the tunnel, the gearbox in front of there behind the engine. I believe. Run it back and you've got all new connectors. So there you can run that back in and wire everything up and know that it's all been re-loomed, fresh, really lovely bits of kit. And yeah, I've forgotten the brand of that. I bought that the other day. It's the thing that turned up most recently, but it'll be in the parts list down below. I think it was about £100. Worth it in my opinion. I bought these on eBay the other day. Came with a heavy duty plate and lots of molly grease to put on it while you're there to protect this area. This is a heavy duty front shock hanger turret from Gwyn Lewis. Been buying their stuff for years now. Use their sumo bars, their prop shafts, everything. As you know, you'll know of them. Great bits of kit. Yeah, good value. Not silly like CNC bits. It's just solid and won't rust. Really happy with that. Wow. Amazing. Another few bits I bought on eBay the other day, probably equated to the same amount of money as the loom there. I think it was about 70 quid. 4 new poly bump stops, just standard height. This is just one. I do have a few of these. Gearbox and engine mounts. You might as well do it while you're there. Again, rather boring and weirdly somehow corroding with the air. New fuel neck for the new fuel tank. Not sure how I'm going to do this. Let's give it a go. Something I thought which was very important to change while you're there is the fuel tank. I'm sure you probably guessed. This came from DDS and it's a nice substantial bit of kit. It's actually already braced at the bottom, which mine currently is, and it's just, again, peace of mind. My other one's really flaky and rusty on the bottom, and this is going to be nice. I can leave my old fuel tank basically in the chassis, put this one in the new one, put the fuel back in, and then you're good to go, which is really nice. There is a return filter that goes in here and then a sender unit. I've been advised to get a new one of those. I haven't acquired those yet, but that's another thing that I'll be looking to do and probably could just get up on the van from Brookwell's nearer to the time. We'll see how we go. Yes, I'm wearing Crocs. Leave me alone. Look at that. So there you go. Another shiny bit from DDS, a Galv 5mm thick cradle that goes over the fuel tank just to protect it even further. I believe it's just optional. It did have I believe it has a strap that goes underneath, but I went for this instead as it protects it and it will just last for a long time. A little bit boring, forgot to show them earlier, down the fasteners line, mixed stainless screws. Just handy to do, you know, handy to have. It was really handy with the bulkhead. What else is there? What else is there? Just taking a look at my list here, we've done very well to get through everything. I hope you're still awake. I've got written here, fasteners, bushes and crossmember bolts. There's still bits I haven't sorted, but it's not very much, is there, to sort still. When I say fasteners, I think there's going to be some specific bits we're going to need. You can either go high grade stainless or nickel plated. What I'm going to do is just buy another assorted chunkier bolts of a mixed range. I hope maybe someone stocks them. I need to look into this. If anyone has advice on more specific bolts that you want to change, I've done this rear shock hanger mount bolts, things like that, you know, the bulkhead ones, body mount ones, things a bit like that. If anyone knows of a company that can provide those, then that would be fantastic, and if you can help, I'll add it to the list and I'll be very thankful. That's one thing. Bushes, the front hockey sticks, the radius arms, I've been wobbling about with very bad poly bushes, so I'm going to go back to standard. I see this happening a lot. Super Pro are the ones to go for. They're quite expensive. You could do the whole kit if you're there, but that's not something I'm doing. I've done a lot of bushes in the past, so I didn't need to go down that line, but the front radius arm bushes I'm going to do, as well as the ones onto the chassis as well, I think. One thing I didn't show here, or didn't talk about, is I've just had there sitting for a while from Brookwell's, some Super Pro bushes for the panhard rod. That has a little bit of play. I've been suffering with death wobble, trying to sort that for a long time. It's still there a little bit, so hopefully that will help, and having a new chassis that's stiff will help that as well. So there you go, all the parts that I've got so far. There's a lot more of each one. I just thought I'd bring a couple of each one out. There's a box over there full of other things still to show, but I thought I'd just go through everything there, and do let me know your opinions on that. And also if there's anything further, it could really help. So do let me know down below. Waffle, waffle, waffle. Let's get on to the actual doing. Well, talk about the actual doing and the actual job. I'm going to be back with BHE Ben, who I've worked with on Boris for 5 years. It's been a brilliant few years of working together, and I enjoy my time there so much. It's just basically like time off going there, but I'm really happy to be using him. We just think very similarly, and he's taught me a lot over the years, and we're just going to get it done, and it's going to work really well that way. The chassis is now at Ben's. I dropped it off a few days ago. I live about 40 minutes from here, so it's a little bit of a way over there, and over the next few weeks I'll be visiting a few times to prep the chassis, the bit I said earlier, going back and forward and letting it dry between, which is great, just to be able to come and go, and then it can dry inside hopefully where it can set and it'll be ready for the next stage. The job, this one, I'm just going to put a rough price out there. There's no real point in me doing it because you might watch this in 5 years time, things are changed in price, things have gone down, up, who knows. Anyway, roughly, depending on what you buy to go onto it, I think you're looking at about £6,000 for the whole thing, and that can fluctuate whichever garage you go for. I'm trying to do loads of it myself, acquire all these bits myself, paint it myself, and then when it comes to labour, doing it with Ben, and we've been mates for a while. We're going to try and do it as quickly as we possibly can. I thought I'd just put that rough cost out there because it's a difficult one for me to answer. You could either do it in 3 to 5 days roughly, and how quickly you want to go, how many things you want to do. I think along the way I will take a few cans of paint and Dinitrol and just touch up bits as I'm putting them back on. Not so much the axles, I might do that in the future, but a few of the bits here and there, but generally up to 5 days, all being well. Breaking the 2 jobs in half, doing them at separate times. The bulkhead, obviously I'm doing them a year apart. That was not the plan. The chassis got a lot worse than I thought. But just generally doing those 2 jobs separately, I think in my mind is working better because I can really focus on each one at a time and save up for the labour and loads of the parts and just the general build, and then really make that job good rather than trying to do them all at the same time and rush. But I can see the benefit of both, and if you're still here, still watching, do let me know down below if what you think on that degree. Do them both at the same time. If you're restoring the whole thing, I guess that's no option. Or if you're just doing those jobs, they're just swaps, do them separately. Let me know down below. Ben summed it up brilliantly on the bulkhead swap.
Oh, look at that. It's good, isn't it?
It just is such a bitter irony that
I know.
he looks no different.
It's not like putting on new wheels or putting a new engine on, you feel the difference straight away, putting a roof tent, roof rack, sort of aesthetical bits. It all has to come down to sort of enthusiast level and your love for the vehicle and knowing what's there in your mind and knowing it's all sorted, complete health check, putting it back to almost new and just knowing that underneath it's going to be a minter. Which is really nice after those years of being underneath it and seeing all those holes. So that's generally the outcome you're going to get. It's just peace of mind, knowing it's all going to be safe and sound and it's going to last a lifetime. The doors open in a different way. Sometimes they won't even close. There was a bit where we went to Elan Valley, and I'll insert a clip here, where I parked it on a sort of twist and I couldn't shut the back door. So I had to open the back window, stand on the door and push it in. Unfortunately bending the window frame, which was really annoying. But it shows you how much of a twist you really get on even a small thing. So imagine if you're going up like a big rock climbing obstacle where your wheel is really lifting, how much that's actually twisting the vehicle and making the chassis weaker and weaker. So hopefully now, from there on out, it'll be nice and strong and solid and have a nice base for Boris to rest on. I do want Boris to be there, or wherever I am, forever. I made that decision a long time ago, but recently I've really stopped caring about the cost of putting all these upgrades on because you are just increasing its lifespan and how good it is for you and the safety as well, I guess. But generally, I really want to have Boris forever and hopefully it will outlive me. So this job is, I would say, the biggest thing you can do to make that happen. That being said, once you've done it, just like the bulkhead, like any job you've ever done, it means then you can move on to other things and the list will grow and carry on. But at least you've ticked this one off the list and you can worry about other things. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been helpful at all. And hopefully I'll see you next time. Cheers.